Welcome to Saturday Morning Retro, episode 35, a podcast featured on retro gaming and giving ourselves an excuse to play our collection. Before we start the show, we want to thank all of our wonderful fans who have supported us. And if you want to show support for the Rated G Network, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RatedG4Gamers. You can also find us on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Rated G4Gamers. And finally, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate all the love. I'm your host, Dave Rotino, and this is my co-host, Dan, the podcaster formerly known as Classic Robinson.
Salutations, Dave.
How you doing, Dan? You good?
I'm well. I want to say, though, I got to say this.
Oh, boy. I know what you're going to say. Here it comes.
We did talk about this, I think, on the regular episode, but we didn't go into any detail because it's more fitted for, the retro style episode that we do. But you fell back on your promise. You did not go to the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo this year.
I'm keeping the streak alive, Dan. All right? 4 years running. I've never been with you to the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. I did end up going 1 year with our friend Anthony ages ago before we were doing the show. And that's where I met Timac. I met the Last Dragon, and he was super awesome. And I got a picture with him, but
I'm not gonna lie. I am disappointed, but I understand the reasons why.
Well,
you didn't go.
I was still pretty sick at that time, I think, or the sickness was just coming on, and there were some other reasons we don't need to go into, but couldn't make it.
You know what? No, you're right, because it would have been a mass panic to see an actual zombie.
Exactly. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that.
Nobody got time for that.
Now,
so I was disappointed, but I understood.
I feel bad. I wanted to be there. I thought it would have been a good time, but you ended up going, right? You did the
I
Saturday,
did go.
Right? Yeah.
I did go. I did. Well, I went there specifically to buy stuff, which I did buy some stuff. I'm not going to talk about it on this episode per se, because I still haven't gone through everything.
Oh,
all my pickups. So I'll talk about it next episode. So next episode would be pickups that I got at the Retro Gaming Expo and in September. But I do have some pickups that I do have listed here, and I will talk about. I got earlier in the month.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was a good turnout. They actually had a live band that was like a marching band that was going through it, right? Which was pretty cool. I don't remember them being there last year or the year before. So that was kind of different. Yeah, and they expanded throughout the museum this year, where what I mean by that is there were parts where it's like, okay, so here are all the like arcade games and here are all the console games, but it was like cut off to a certain point. You couldn't go through if you went through the rest of the museum, there was nothing there game related. It was all museum related, right?
Right.
Let you through.
If people don't know, it is in the Cradle of Aviation Museum, which has a bunch of planes and space not props, but spacecraft and whatever else. Like it's legit in a museum. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year, they actually expanded throughout the museum. So there were more consoles that you can play, more arcade cabinets. So I thought that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think about this. I don't know if I've ever been there on a Saturday. I think I've always went on a Sunday. Because it was super crowded. But I got to see John Riggs. I got to see Pat and Ian. They were there. They actually had a podcast there. I did see Woods beat him up, and a couple other people. They don't come to my mind off per se, but I did see a bunch of YouTubers there shopping. It was super crowded, and I was there on a Saturday, super crowded. So I definitely wasn't going to be able to get any deals done that day. If you want to go, pro tip, if you want to get deals, if you go to a convention, go to the last day.
Sunday,
because
baby.
nobody wants to go back to wherever they came from, especially if they're coming from like the West Coast. They don't want to go back with inventory. They'll be willing to do a deal after they've made enough money the first 2 days of the convention. So
even better, set up the rapport on whatever the first day is. If you're going all the days, if you can, set up the rapport early, get your name known, get your face known, and then come back on Sunday and go, oh, hey, remember me? And then they'll maybe a little more amenable to giving you an even better deal.
That's how I got the Menacer, right? The Sega Menacer.
Oh, yep.
Inbox, complete inbox. The only thing I didn't have was the styrofoam to keep it in, right?
Right.
Yeah, I saw it. We went to Portland, Long Island Portland Gaming Expo, and I saw it like that first day, and it was there. And I think he wanted like $80 for it. I mean, this is years ago when it was cheaper. And that last day, I think he just said, "Give me 50, and I'll give it to you." And then I had to go to FedEx. Couldn't fit it in. Fit it in the book bag. Right. Yeah, had to go to FedEx to ship it back to me.
Side note: this is one thing I've never seen people try and pirate or fake or whatever is the styrofoam inlays.
They should.
Nobody
would come in
tries
handy.
to carve out a styrofoam inlay.
That's true.
Right?
Actually, I've never seen that. Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know what? Wait. Okay, rewind. We just haven't seen it. Doesn't mean they haven't done it, and it's probably not widespread, maybe.
I don't know. Like, I've seen the cardboard. I've seen people do the cardboard inserts and the plastic clamshells and the whatever else, but the styrofoam inserts as like a replacement, not even on like a fake level, like maybe just on like a, hey, you want to buy this, like $5-10 you can get a styrofoam replacement for your Menacer or whatever. Be a good one for business,
or for any console or anything that came in a cardboard. Yeah, no, you're right.
There you go.
All right, Dave, we have an awesome show this month. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Pursuit Force for the PSP and G.I. Joe, the original G.I. Joe game for the NES. But before we get into any of that, we always start Saturday Morning Retro with this time in gaming history. And I'm not going to go too far back. I'm going to go to 2019. A little game called Astro Chain was released for the Switch exclusive August 30th.
Wow. This is Platinum Games, yes?
Yes.
Platinum Games, most famous for the Bayonetta series. All but under the Nintendo umbrella.
Well, Astro Chain, I think Nintendo actually owns the IP for Astro Chain. So this isn't something that can, later on come out on Xbox or PlayStation or anything like that. It can only come out on Switch. I thought it was fantastic. You play as a cop.
You were big on this game.
Yeah, play as a cop in a more futuristic setting, and you have control of it's like Pokemon on steroids, right? Because you have this monster that's attached to you through the Astro Chain, right? That you can control to face off with bad guys. So I thought this game was fantastic on a Dave scale.
Okay.
Highly recommended. Definitely probably cheap right now. Cheaper.
I think you put it up for Game of the Year that year, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least Game of the Half Year, right?
Well, it came out August 30th, so it wouldn't be Game of the Half Year.
Okay.
I definitely nominated for Game of the Year. I think I did nominate for Game of the Year that year, 2019.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, all right, Dave. You got any, since you didn't go to the Retro Gaming Expo.
I did not.
And you didn't. You had the T virus, but we inserted the antidote in you, so you're turning back into normal Dave.
I'm getting there. It's taking a lot longer than I thought. It's almost going on 2 weeks at this point. Christ. But
3 weeks. You get any good pickups?
I did. And I definitely didn't pay eBay prices. I definitely didn't pay Long Island Retro Gaming Expo prices. I didn't even pay Sunday prices. I got some stuff like dirt cheap. And I feel good about it. I managed to get out and go to some local haunts. Shout out. Well, let me tell you a little story before I tell my pickups. Because I went out just yesterday, as of this recording, I went out just yesterday, and oh man, I had a rookie mistake. I was
You haven't had one of those in a while.
no, and I was looking on Craigslist because the garage sale scene has been bad for a while. You know that, I know that. I don't think we've been to a garage sale in ages. We know the zombie apocalypse, COVID, whatever, that put a big kink in things, and but at this point, people should be getting back out there. It is garage sale season, or the end of garage sale season. It's winding down. Usually ends around October when the weather starts getting real crappy. But I managed to find a couple of garage sales online. I said, okay. Says, what do I do? They're all starting around the same time. How do I map the route out? And I looked up a couple of the things, and I'm like, oh, they're pretty close by, whatever. I'll take a bike over there. It'll be cool. It's going to be a nice day. Even though it started off raining, by the time I got out of the house, it wasn't raining anymore. So, I got my cash ready. I said, all right. It says, okay. It says, here we go. First thing I did, I wasn't looking where I was going, and I basically flipped end over end and fell into a pile of dirt. So there you go. There was that thing. I was like, oh, great, start the day off okay. So and I'm like, well, so I cleaned myself up. I said, okay, let's not let that happen again. And then I go to the wrong address in the first place. Because
That's a lot.
Because, I mean, Dan knows. Dan lives in Queens. He's mentioned that before. I live in Brooklyn, right? Queens loves to have the same exact roadway, just one will be a street, one will be a road, one will be a court, one will be a whatever, avenue, a place, a roundabout, a Stravenue, or whatever, and they'll do it. It'll be 63rd Street and 63rd Road and whatever else. Makes it highly confusing. You got to go up.
Does it? You're headed in the right direction. Okay, it's just gonna take. Yes, but in Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, you got names. Like, how do I know if I'm going in the right direction? It's all names. At least 64th Place, 64th Street, 64th Avenue, 64th Court.
Yeah, but how do you know street comes after avenue
Street,
or vice versa? How do you know?
Well, it doesn't matter. Keep going. Keep going until you find.
Oh, so I have to go. I have to go 10 blocks to figure out if I'm going in the right direction.
That's how that works.
Not good.
Keep going.
No, that's not
Keep
good.
going.
If you're gonna have numbered streets, which I think is good, they do it in Manhattan. They do it in Brooklyn.
At least in Brooklyn they skip it. Oh my God! Especially like all the way down in.
I don't know. Maybe they do, but even if they skip it, if it goes from 35 to 38. You're going you're going down.
But I gotta go to 36th Street. Where is it? I gotta go to Bay 36.
I mean,
36 Bay. Where's 36 Bay? It just went from 35 Bay to 39 Bay. Where's 36 Bay?
I don't know about that, but I mean that's also confusing. It's annoying. Let's just say I went to the street as opposed to the place. And, well, that's where that all went down. So I went a half an hour in one direction, realized immediately that I messed up. I went to the Craigslist thing, and I was like, oh. So when I went 15 minutes back, so it only would have been a 15-minute ride, I get to the place, and I recognize the dude. Me and you... I've dealt with the guy more times than you have, but me and you, there was one time that they were having a flea market in Brooklyn. I was like, Dan, you got to get down here. They have a lot of good stuff. And it was him and his friend, and they had a ton of stuff. That's where I bought the Pikachu N64.
Yes, I was about to say that. Yeah, I was about to say that.
It was those guys. We ended up with like a ton of really good stuff for a really good price. These guys are awesome. And by the time I got there, there was two dudes who already had a pile of stuff that they were trying to bid on. And I saw both dudes. One guy I was talking to, and he was like a collector, and me and him were chatting a little bit. He does mods to consoles, and well, I was like, all right, cool. Like, you earned that stuff. And then the other guy that I saw, I was watching his behavior and what he was doing and this and that. Guy was he was a total flipper. And I was like,
oh, it was one of those.
Well, yeah, because like he bought a bunch of stuff, and then like the way he was haggling on the price, I didn't like. And then he's just like, oh, how about like this, and it just like give me a price or whatever. Like he didn't care. He just wanted to get a ton of stuff cheap and then resell it on eBay. Like I knew it, and I'm like, ugh. And I saw that he had a stack of Super Nintendo games. All right, it was a couple of Super Nintendo games in there. Couldn't see what they were, and I'm like, God damn. And I was prepared to be there early, so I messed up on that. And then the second place that I went to, that garage sale is today, not yesterday. So now I got to go back there. And I remember them saying, oh, yeah, there's probably going to be a block party and whatever else. And I remember riding over, and I keep seeing signs for a block party on Sunday. It didn't quite click in my head. So now I got to go back over there and see what they got. But I've confirmed that they got some stuff. So I'm determined to go back and
part of Queens where you were in.
Oh, no. I wasn't in Queens. This was all like Brooklyn area. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So I say all that to say that I did actually pick something up from that garage sale. That's a blue Nintendo DS Lite, which is in very good condition. So excited about that. Also, my good friend Pete managed to find me an Atari 2600, complete with controllers, power cords, wires, and a handful of regular Atari games, nothing really worth mentioning, which very happy to have in the collection. It's my first 2600 since my childhood, which those were sold off at a garage sale ages ago. But I also got... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, so some other collector ages ago got it for like $5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we sold it for like nothing. Because, like, who knew? But I also got Resident Evil, the original for the Wii, which I didn't realize existed. I didn't think they ported it over.
That was when they made the first one again and put it on a GameCube. They ported it to the Wii.
Right. I did not realize they ported it forward. It's a very.
I have that version as well. It has something extra in it, I believe.
Right.
They did for the Wii. I forgot what it was.
They call it like Resident Evil Origins or Chronicles or something. Like there's another word they add to it on there. Origins maybe. But also got Super Mario All-Stars, the first one, the 2D collection. Tomb Raider Underworld for the Wii. My fitness coach for the Wii sealed. Happy about that. Not really worth a lot of money, but still. Nice to have sealed.
But you can unseal it and use, and now you have a fitness coach.
No. I have an unsealed version already, and I also have the reward.
Gotcha.
So I got two. I'm good. Also, the Saboteur for Xbox 360. That's a
very underrated game.
Yeah. That's actually an upgrade, label upgrade, which is nice. And GT7, the late birthday gift from my friends. So very excited to have that for the PS5. And yeah. So
okay. Well, GT7, you mean Gran Turismo 7?
Yeah.
Just in case anybody out there doesn't think you're talking about GTA.
Oh, well, I mean, GTA 6 isn't even out yet. I got that early build. They're going back to San Andreas.
It's still in DOS form right now.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So what do you got then?
Again, I got all of this like the first week of August, and I put it down on the list. I still have a pile of games I have to go through, which I also got at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. You know what?
Long Island Retro Gaming Expo.
I mean, Long Island Gaming Expo. But you know what? I will say I did pick up a couple of Nintendo Powers. This guy was getting rid of them for like $5 because they had some damage on them. They were a little wear and tear. And I said, you know what? For $5, I'll take all three. That's fine. One of them had like water damage, but it was still in like pretty good condition. He said he tried to dry it out as much as he can and make sure it didn't shrivel up, and it didn't. It's still in good condition. It's not brittle by any means. You could tell this person cares, but obviously he's had it for so long, since probably when he was younger, so that those things got wet or got messed up, along the way. But now he takes better care of things, obviously, because he's more of a collector. So I did buy over again a Nintendo Power, so now I have to log my Nintendo Powers to make sure I don't buy doubles. So I end up spending $20 on something I already had. I'm kind of upset about it. But I will say this, and you know, the silver lining and everything, it is in better condition than the one that I already owned. So that's the one I would put in the collection to keep. Another one, you know, if we ever do another giveaway, or if I ever have to trade in or want to sell a Nintendo Power, I could put that one up. So, and keep the one that's in a better condition. I've been trying to look for Final Fantasy VII strategy guide, the original back in the day, or the one that came out on PSM. I did find the strategy guide, but it was for a really good price. Not $5. Don't get me wrong, not $5, but it was for a really good price. But it was in really bad condition. And I said, if I'm gonna spend $30, which is a good price because that magazine goes upwards. Either the PSM magazine that featured Final Fantasy VII that had sort of like a walkthrough, or it had like a walkthrough through it, or the original strategy guide can go upwards of like $70, right? So $30, I thought was a great price, but it was in really bad condition, which is the reason why it was for $30. And I just couldn't bring myself to buy it. In retrospect, if I can take that Nintendo Power back for $20 and say, I'll get the Final Fantasy strategy guide, I should have did that. So now I'm gonna have to log my Nintendo Powers. Because I probably have like 90 of them. So I'm at that point where I have so many, I'm going to buy doubles by accident.
It happens.
So I will say that's what I did get at the expo.
Oh,
but what I got.
Well, hold on. Here's a question. Does your game catalog app that you have, does that also work for magazines and strategy guides?
And that's a good question. I thought about that and I said I got to look into it. It doesn't have it on the app per se, because they have the CLZ app that you probably, if you listen to us, you probably listen to a bunch of other people. Metal Jesus swears by it as well. Yeah, they have different apps for different things. So it's like an app for games, an app for like if you collect DVDs, I think, an app for comic books, app for records. I think they have one for records too. And I could be wrong about that. So if they had an app for strategy guides or Nintendo Powers specifically, it would probably be a separate app, not the same app as the video game app. So I would have to check that out. I don't think anybody has it, but I could be wrong. I may have to. I could always make a category in the app, like a video game category in the app, and log it manually, which I would be okay with doing it. I would have to find the time to do that. Because I definitely have way over 100 magazines, because I must have like 80 or 90 Nintendo Powers by themselves. So I have a bunch of magazines from, you pick it, PSM, Xbox, even an Atari magazine. I have a bunch of those from back in the day. So I would have to check that out. That's a good question. That's something I need to look into now, so I don't have to buy doubles.
That's where it all comes from. You scan the barcode, looks it up in a database, and then it has all that info in there. Yeah.
But the games that I did pick up before the expo earlier, the first week of August, I got Test Drive Off-Road 1, 2, and 3 for the original PlayStation, the PS1.
Nice.
I picked up Street Fighter Collection 2 for the PS1. Almost said Xbox. X-Men Children of the Atom, which I already had for the Saturn, but now I also have that for the PS1.
Yeah, that's what kicked off the great Marvel Capcom collaboration. Up until X-Men or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was the last crossover.
I did NCIS for the 3DS as a game for Saturday Morning Retro. Didn't realize the 3DS one and the console versions were different, so I had to go pick up NCIS. I got it for the Xbox 360.
There you go.
And I got Fallout Brotherhood of Steel for the PS2, which I didn't even know existed.
Oh, it's terrible, Dan. Never played.
Is it?
Oh, it's terrible. Well, Yeah, because it's meant to be a third-person twin-stick shooter, maybe? It's definitely a top-down third-person action game in the Fallout universe, which could be really cool. It would be a great triple R candidate, but they dropped the bag on it. You get 3 characters to choose from, which is cool. You get a little bit of variety, but the game is so just not good. Like, it's not even like okay. It's apparently very bad.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, not to say it's not worth owning.
It's not that cheap.
It's just not worth
It's
playing.
not for something that's really bad. It wasn't that cheap.
Because nobody bought it. Yeah, I mean, it was just like, ugh.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
All right, Dave. This month, we're doing Triple R, where we pick a game and we ask if we want to remaster it, remake it, or recycle the idea into a different type of game. So this month, what would be your Triple R?
I am throwing a remaster up on the stage. And it is and Dan's going to be very happy about this. It is an Xbox exclusive, original Xbox exclusive from way back when. One of the very good exclusive games. There are some. This is Gunvalkyre.
There are a lot. But go ahead.
This is Gunvalkyre for the original Xbox, which is for those of you who don't know, it is a third-person mech shooter game. Is very good. Is made by Smilebit, the guys who made or helped make the original Jet Set Radio, and I believe Jet Set Radio Future or Jet Grind Radio, if you are here in the States. They had to change the name for some reason. So certainly they have a good pedigree behind them. This was obviously born out of the Sega and Microsoft partnership, where they kind of work real close together, where Microsoft was really trying to angle to buy Sega. So this was, I think, part of that. Gunvalkyre is a very good game. It is lost to time on the original Xbox. I don't know if it's backwards compatible on any of the newer consoles. It should be. But it also needs a remaster, right? Because it was in like 480p. I don't think it was widescreen back in the day. You know, it just needs some better resolution. You know, clean up some of the menu screens, add some new quality of life features, throw in some achievements, and there you go. That'd be a good game.
Okay. All right. So this month I'm going to pick Pocket Bike Racer.
Oh,
I want a remake. I want a remake of it. Listen,
Wait,
everybody has a racing game. Everybody has a racing game. And then Nickelodeon has a racing game, like a pod racing. Like, everybody has a racing game. I think Pocket Bike Racer, from the 3 Burger King games that came out, and I think they were the first, or one of the first, cross-gen games of its time, because it could play on the original Xbox.
I think
and it could play on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So all those later, I know there were a few. I think there were like a handful of Xbox games that could play that were cross-gen. So these were the later games. So they wanted to, obviously, still the people who brought an original Xbox and all the hype for the 360. So they wanted to cross between those and have people play those. I think Pocket Bike Racer was the best out of the 3, in my opinion.
You didn't like Sneak King? Come on now.
It was I'm not saying I didn't like Sneak King. I mean, it's okay for what it's worth. But if I had to pick one of the games, I think the Pocket Bike Racer still even goes for still works for today. I mean, you know, do you think it's any worse than the Nickelodeon kart racing games?
I wouldn't know. I haven't actually played that one. I don't know. I just thought it was
Garfield had a race. Garfield had a racing game. I mean, you can race as
racing games. Actually, he's got a franchise.
You can race as a Whopper in this game. Come on, you can race as a Whopper.
Points for originality, sure, and points for synergy and tie-in. There you go.
And honestly, I could do a remake, or I can even just do a remastered of this game. I could do either or. I could do a double R on this game. To be honest, like, I mean, Come on, it's one of the most inventive, cheesy kart racing games.
Literally.
That we've had. The only thing I would do, I would have like a Burger King at the finish line. It's like everybody's racing to get the Burger King.
Oh yeah, of course, he's got to be there. Listen, man, I've seen weirder things happen. Get like M2 on this, right? Have them do the do the remake here.
I think M2 has better things to do.
You sold me, Dan. I'm all about this now. It's got to happen.
So, all right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive deep into our backlog and talk about Pursuit Force for the PSP and G.I. Joe for the NES. And we're back. All right, Dave. Let's dive deep into our backlog and talk about Pursuit Force for the PSP and G.I. Joe for the NES. And let me go first.
Yeah.
I picked Pursuit Force because I'm not gonna lie, the thing that really got me to want to play this game was all about nostalgia.
Okay.
It's all about nostalgia.
Yeah.
This was the original Pursuit Force game that came out on the PSP. Because they did make two, so this is sort of like a franchise.
It is a short-lived franchise. That's right.
It is a short-lived franchise. The original game came out. Well, one, it came out in the EU back in November 18th of 2005, and in North America in March 7th of 2006. It was developed by Big Studio, published by Sony. That's kind of different, right? Usually North America would get it first, and then like all the other countries, like the EU, like Japan would get something first, and then come out to North America, and then the EU last. So this is sort of different. This is different where the EU would get the game first, and then we get it, and we sort of got it last. I don't think this was even released in Japan, to be honest.
Oh, so it's got to be a European developer then, right?
Big Studio. I don't know. I don't know if they must be a European developer. They no longer exist, by the way.
That was going to be my follow-up question.
They no longer exist. I think they made the last game they made was a game on the Vita, and then Sony folded. They were their first party studio. Sony folded them back in like 2012, 2013, right before the PS4 came out. I know that. Mm-hmm. So I did. This game got released on the PSP, and it's on PlayStation Online service, PlayStation Plus. Mm-hmm. So, which is where I played the PSP version back in the day. I still own my original game, but I did, for the purposes of the Saturday Morning Retro, I played it on PlayStation Plus.
They managed to put this on the system. Okay, there you go. It'll blast from the past. All right.
Vehicular combat game is what this game is described as. And it is, well, at least the idea is super awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, when I first saw this, I was so like, I want to play this game because I saw the commercials. I had a PSP. This came out like a year later or 8 months later after the PSP was released, right? So it wasn't a launch game, but it definitely was put out. If I remember correctly, they put this out in like Jak and Daxter and another game to show that the PSP wasn't just a PS1 port machine.
Right.
But I will say I hated the load times. The load times on this were atrocious.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the PS5 version, well, the PlayStation Plus online version doesn't have that problem.
Right. They managed to harness the power of the PS5 when emulating. All right, good deal. Well, that's
the story is just like a big action movie scene, right? I mean, there's so much crime in Capital City. It was like RoboCop, right? It was like, was RoboCop Capital City? What movie from back in the day was like Capital City?
I want to say that you're right, because I think they had the big C's on their cars, because it was in Chicago.
Detroit.
Or Detroit.
No, it was in Detroit.
Yeah. I want to say you're right about that. I'll have to go ahead and look it up, but
there's nothing but like a big crime syndicate and different gangs that are there in Capital City, and they're sort of destroying the city, and this elite. So they come up with this elite task force called the Pursuit Force that was created to come and stop crime in Capital City.
These are not vigilantes; these are regular law enforcement, but a special task force. Is that
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
All right, cool. Because I wasn't necessarily too sure. I figured they were the boys in blue, but they're a special boys in blue. So okay.
No, yes, and you actually do start off. Every time and I'll talk about the gameplay in a minute. You do start off in like a cop car or a police boat or a police motorcycle, but you never keep it. And I'll tell you why when we talk about the gameplay. But Capital City, crime is rampant. You have like the big 5 gangs that are in the game. You have the warlords, which are rogue mercenaries or ex-soldiers who are running amok. You have the vixens, which are high-tech female thieves. By the way, these are the actual descriptions of them in the game, too. High-tech female thieves. You have the convicts, which are escaped prisoners. And then you have the Capelli family, which is like a mafia-style syndicate. And then you have the Killer 66, which are the Yakuza-style vehicle smugglers.
There you go. Those are all the crime archetypes right there in one video game. Very nice. Now, that's only 5. That's only 5 different gangs that you go against, right? In the game.
Correct. And
okay.
Each gang has 6 levels each.
Okay. So that's like 30 levels for the whole entire game if you want to play
correct
completion. Okay.
And you play as a rookie cop that has to stop them. You have to stop rampant crime in Capital City.
Right.
So gameplay wise, I will say the game starts off with a huge cinematic scene at the start of the game, which it's just like an action movie. Crime is rampant. It's like a cheesy late 80s, early 90s action movie. We need to create an actual task force, the Pursuit Force, to go after these criminals, right? Or maybe like a Saturday morning cartoon action cartoon. So I really like. That really got me into the game. They also the music in this game. It's super high quality. Well, at least to me, it's like the main theme of the song. It's like an opening of an action TV show with the heroic, fast-paced theme. Right. So I was like, oh, okay. The start of the game really gets you hyped to play the game. Gameplay wise, the stages vary between taking down drug dealers, escort missions, and stopping heists. They actually even have a level that pays homage to speed, right? Where you have to keep the bus running like 100 miles an hour.
Very nice. Very nice.
While other, like a cop car comes to the side of the bus, and you have to get. I think you have to get like 60. It's an absurd amount of passengers off the bus. It was crazy. I couldn't even complete the level. Because if you go under 100, I think you have like 3 to 4 minutes, and the bus will explode if you go under 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. Most missions have a time limit, or you have to defeat a set number of enemies before they reach a certain destination. So that definitely brings to the anxiety of each level, where it's like, oh, I got to get this done. You can't just chill out and reset. No. You got to get this done before they hit a certain level, before they hit a certain destination. Or, you know what? Your boss is going to yell at you and say you suck. It's exactly what comes up. He says, you suck. Come on, you had to do better. You got to get him. The biggest thing in the gameplay of this game is you jump from cars, boats, motorcycles, and you're in the middle of a high-speed chase under heavy gunfire from the gangs. Every time you take a car or bike or a boat, you switch the weapon that the criminal had in that car, in that vehicle, which kind of sucks. You do start out with a pistol, which sucks. When you get like a high-powered like an Uzi. I'm always grateful for that. But you're going to you have to keep jumping from car to car or vehicle to vehicle or boat to boat, because it's really hard to keep pace with everybody because the enemy cars are so goddamn fast. They really are super fast. Right? It's like being Fast and the Furious, and you have to keep up with them, and you're trying to keep up with them before they hit a certain destination. So you have to keep jumping car to car, because if you keep firing, they're going to keep swerving out of the way. So it's hard to have a lock on them while you're driving and trying not to crash as well. So I will say you can jump on the front. I like the fact that you could jump in the front of the car or the back of the car or the boat, depending on where you're driving. So if I'm driving and you're in front of me, I can jump in the back of it. But if I'm in front of you, I'll be jumping on the front of your car, on the hood of your car. So those little details, especially on a PSP game, are pretty awesome. The enemies I'm not gonna lie though, it's in the harder levels, and I'll get to the difficulty in a minute. When you're jumping from car to car, they have more high-powered weapons, and they can swerve to get you off. And as soon as your health goes down, which can be fast, especially in those harder levels, your head gets rammed into the ground and you just die. So, and then you just have to start the whole level over again. Jeez. The EU version, fun fact, the EU version did not have checkpoints. So
really? Oh wow.
Only the North American version had checkpoints. So the North American version is a little bit more, I don't want to say easy, because this game is very difficult to play, right. But at least it makes it worthwhile, especially when you die like 6 or 7 times and you finally pass this point in that stage. It's a checkpoint, so you can just come back to it and not have to do it all over again if the next stage is super difficult, right? Well, the next part of the level is super difficult. Part of the difficulty is that every vehicle has a health meter. So you have a health meter, and the vehicle has a health meter. So if you jump to that car and you've already, lit it up with bullets from behind, and you finally got a chance to jump on it and kill the bad guys inside, that vehicle is now going to be smoky, and you're going to have to jump to the next. You're going to hurry up and jump to the next vehicle, because you always have people shooting at you. Right? It's a really high speed chase, so you got to jump to the next vehicle before that car blows up or you die, no matter what your health bar is. And the game has a justice meter, which means you could fill up the justice meter when you actually kill enemies. But you can use that justice meter to slow down as a slowdown feature, which is very useful when you're jumping to cars. It slows down time like the Matrix, right? And you get a chance to defeat everybody in that vehicle and take it over, or you can replenish your health. So it's up to you. How you want to use it. I try not to replenish my health until it gets very low, because you're going to get bullets flying everywhere. So as soon as you replenish your health, you're gonna take some damage right away. So you have to avoid shooting and crashing into the general public. So just imagine we're in a high-speed chase. Okay. There are other people. There are other vehicles on the road. Sure. You're trying to avoid them, catch up to the bad guys, and jumping car to car. Yeah. Right? And you can't.
Just like a high-speed chase on the highway. Yeah.
Yeah. And every time you crash or shoot a civilian or a public car, your justice meter goes down.
Right.
And you can only use the justice meter once it's filled up completely.
Yeah.
Yes. So just imagine if you're sitting there and you have a max justice meter. You don't want to use it yet because you have full health, and you want to go in. And then all of a sudden you accidentally crash into a civilian, and that justice meter goes down 2 notches. So now you got to actually defeat an enemy before it can fill back up.
Right. So,
what were you going to say?
Oh, I'm curious because it looks like it's all vehicular combat. Is there any on foot stuff in this game?
Yes. Okay. There is a third person ground level, which I'll get to in a minute.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I definitely want to say they have a helicopter turret level. on every gang has a helicopter turret level, which is just impossible. It's impossible.
They're in the helicopter, or you're in the helicopter?
No, you're in a helicopter, okay, and you have to do, and you have a turret, and you have to destroy them. But it's hard to control, and it's hard to keep up because they keep swerving out of their way and they're so fast, and they keep zooming up, and it's hard to control the turret up and down, left and right, as is. And they're shooting missiles at you, or throwing Molotov cocktail bottles at you.
Yeah.
Right, and you have to shoot those, and it'll sometimes be two vehicles at the same time, or two boats at the same time, and they're both shoot missiles at you, and it's hard to control the turret as it is. So those levels are impossible. Okay. Impossible. And by the way, you have to destroy them before they hit a certain destination.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. So and I will say the music on every level is fantastic, because the music keeps up with the high-paced, the up-tempo beat that brings tension to the high-speed chase. So it fits very well. The voice acting and the detail and the sound effects are great as well. So yes, there are. Lastly, and I saved this for last, the ground levels, to where you get to, like, hey, you have a high-speed chase. You've beaten a certain amount of enemies. You've destroyed a certain amount of cars, or you've taken the escort mission. You've taken this NPC wherever you needed to go, and now you have to go chase the bad guys on foot. And it is definitely not made to be a third-person action game. It is definitely not made for that. It's only controlled by one stick, by the way. So
because it's on the PSP. Well, it was
on the PSP
originally, so it only had one stick, right?
And the PS5 version, well, the PlayStation Plus version online controls the same way, by the way.
Yeah. You're not gonna because you're not reworking the game. You're just porting it essentially, right? Yeah.
You can either duck, and I say duck. You can either hide behind cover, or just run up to run around shooting. So you can't really shoot because you can't aim when you're in cover. So this wasn't made to be like a third-person action game, cover game, like in the vein of any other, like Gears of War or anything like that. So you either duck and wait for them to stop shooting, and then run, and you're still going to get hit no matter what. So you might as well just run to them and do an action button and take them down. So, but they throw an absurd number of enemies at you. Like, I remember one level I had to defeat like 40, 50 enemies. So it was crazy.
As a side note, you want to know why the soundtrack is so good? I looked it up real quick. I was actually very curious. My boy Richard Jacques. Speaking of the Jet Set series, he did some tracks for Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future. He was the composer for Pursuit Force. Very good.
Makes sense why the music was really good.
Yeah. He's obviously he's from Europe, which makes sense. It's a European developer, right? So there you go.
So this game is supremely difficult. It is so hard. The developer actually said they will make strides to curb the difficulty in the next game. So it is really difficult because again, keep this in mind. There's a high speed chase. You have to catch up with these guys because they're super fast. Right, like the first level with the Capelli family, they're like the easy levels where it's like it sort of teases you, like, oh, I could do this. You jump in car to car, pretty easy. You only got to defeat maybe like 4 or 5 enemies, no problem. As soon as you get to the other gangs, they have high power weapons. It's not like you can upgrade your health. You can only upgrade weapons when you actually destroy them and you take over that car. They're super fast. You have to keep up with them. You try not to hit pedestrians because you want to keep your justice meter high. And it's a lot of them, and especially the turret levels suck. They're balls hard. By the way, there's actually a boss called Hard Balls, because he's hard as balls. He is hard.
Oh my!
I know.
God. That's a little.
It's a reference from the time. It's a reference of the time. Yeah. Reference of the time.
That's funny.
Does this game hold up today?
That's the question, Dan.
Well, that depends. That depends. If you like, if you like really hard games,
I do. I do. I like balls hard games, Dan. Is this the game?
Well, if you like really challenging games, I would say yes, but the third person sections don't hold up at all today with that one stick controls. Yep. You can get through them easy enough, but I don't think I don't think they're fun now. They were fun at the time because that was all we knew. Sure. But now that you're playing Call of Duty and you play your Call of Duties, you play your Gears of War, you play your Uncharted. So there's a better control system, right? Mm-hmm. It's really hard to go back and play like GoldenEye and games of that nature. So. Oh
yeah. Sounds like it's ripe for a remake, Dan. A triple R, right?
Correct. I'm gonna say because those ground levels they're only like a handful of them, and they're easy enough to get by. If you like hard games and you can manage to get through those, I would say maybe. I would say maybe. It's not really a yes or a no type question, just because I think most of the game is vehicle. You're you're jumping car to car, and the turret levels and the third person levels I think aren't as fun as I guess maybe we thought they were back in the day. So it's a maybe. It's not really a yes or a no answer. It's a maybe. But this did come out during Metacritic days. Okay, and it has a Metacritic score of 75, 35 positive, 22 mixed, and 2 negative. User score 77. The best score that came out there was from the Detroit Free Press, which I didn't know reviewed games. At least at the time they did. They give it a perfect score. They give it a 100. And I couldn't find the actual review for Detroit Free Press, but they gave it 100. And then some UK outlet, NTSC UK, gave it a 40, and I couldn't find their review. But I did find IGN's review, and this is a review of the time. Keep in mind, the tagline for the review was, "It's like stuffing a summer blockbuster in your pants. Head inside for the verdict."
I think that's very fitting, considering there's someone called Balls Hard as a boss.
Yeah.
I think they got the tone of that review perfect.
I couldn't find the NTSC review, but they did have a snippet from the review in Metacritic, and it said you should buy this game only if you like stabbing your hand with bits of glass like Batman does in Arkham Asylum. Either that or you're fairly confident the PSP build quality will ensure it's surviving a forehead screen interface.
Jesus.
Yeah, I guess they didn't really like that game so much.
No. Well, I mean, that's their opinion, Dan. I want to know, what is your opinion? How would you rate this game on the 10 points?
I don't know if this will be the lowest score I've given.
Oh, boy.
But I'm going to give it a 5.5, Dave.
Wow. I feel like you may have given tossed out a 4 before, but 5.5 is pretty... Well, yes, it's on the lower end. If you consider 8 to be kind of the average, 8 is a good game, right? Anything less than 8 starts to get a little bit hairy, but 5 technically is right in the middle, and you're 5.
You know what?
So.
You know what? We're going to have a first. We're going to have a first in this show.
Oh, geez. It's going to be what, 5.25?
I think maybe I am judging it a little bit harshly because of the difficulty.
Listen. Your review is your review. I'm not here.
I would give it. You know what? I would give it a 6. I'm going to upgrade it because it had a great soundtrack.
All right.
The ideas are wonderful.
There you go.
They definitely did a good job. I mean, it was I died several times over and over again, and it was gratifying when I actually beat the level. And having checkpoints in the North American version definitely helped. But I gotta say, the helicopter turret levels were again hard to control. The third person ground levels don't hold up today, and just the difficulty in the boss battles and trying to control the vehicles, not so good. Hopefully in the sequel they did better and tweak some of these things. I haven't played that yet, so they'd be excited. I kind of want to play that game. I don't think the sequel is on the PlayStation Plus online. I have to check. Maybe it is. It should be. So I mean, it is ripe for a remake. That would be, I mean, it is a first party studio, right? So if they, I don't know if you would want to do this on handheld version, but maybe you could take the idea and make it for the consoles. That would be a good thing. But if you want to play this game, you can get a loose copy, UMD, on Luki for $6.97.
Hey, that is the right price right there. $110. So there you go.
It's a dollar. It's $1.15 for every point I gave it on my scale.
There you go. That's not too bad. That's a good deal right there.
So Dave, tell me all about G.I. Joe for the NES.
Oh, this game, man. And I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying that I've never played. I don't want to say I never played a G.I. Joe game, because I did play the one on the Commodore 64, which charming in its own right, but very basic. I never played any of the NES G.I. Joe games, and they always look super cool. I remember them getting big spreads in Nintendo Power, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool, because I loved Joe when I was a kid. My brother loved G.I. Joe. We had all the toys. We had, we had the Joe base, and we had we had all the vehicles. We had all the characters. We had the giant boat, the giant fan boat thing. We had everything. So I was like, yeah, I get to play as the Joes. This is awesome. So I was excited to pick this game up. A little backstory on this game. Came out in North America in January of 1991, and that's it. Never came out in Japan, never came out in Europe. This is a North American release specifically.
That makes sense, because G.I. Joe, I don't know if that the cartoon came out in Japan or anywhere else, because G.I. Joe is like an American war cartoon, hero. Technically. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it didn't really have any worldwide appeal or reach. So yeah. But interesting, I figured it's got to come out in Japan too, right? It's got to be a Japanese developer.
Well, the movies do. I mean, it made The Rock a big action star when he played in G.I. Joe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this was developed by KID, KID. Not too much information on about them. They are also dissolved now. It was published by Taxan, who also is dissolved now. It was released on the NES. It's a run and gun with light RPG elements, and I played this on the FCEUX emulator on my PC, and the reason for that will be very apparent at the end of the episode, and we'll go ahead and circle back on that. But
I will say KID stands for Kindle, Imagine, Develop.
There you go. Imagine, Develop. Yeah.
They were founded in 1988 and defunct in 2006.
There you go. So it's been a little bit. Taxan had a much shorter run. They were alive during the NES period, and they lasted for a few years. Their parent company, Kaga Electronics, very Japanese company, right? This is why it's a little weird. Why wouldn't you also put out a Japanese version of it, right? They are the parent company of Taxan, as well as Naxat, which is Taxan backwards, which is very interesting.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah,
it makes sense. I didn't even think about that.
Naxat, most notably known for Summer Carnival '92 Rekka, I believe is the birth of the bullet hell shooter. They had this competition where I guess a bunch of developers or whatever tried to make the hardest shmup ever. Probably butchering some of those details and whatnot, but I think that's kind of how that went down. And they ended up putting that out before Naxat, I guess, dissolved. I don't know if Kaga Electronics is still around in some way, shape, or form, but Taxan did put out games like Star Soldier, Fist of the North Star in Japan, Magician, and Putt Master. And the producer of the G.I. Joe game is Ken Lobb, sometimes known as Cal or K-Lob. He is an American video game designer who worked for Taxan, Namco, and Nintendo, most notably known for being the co-creator of the Killer Instinct series. And he worked on a hell of a ton of games, gets a lot of special thanks in the credits on a lot of N64 and Xbox games, as well as some NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis games. So that man's got a storied history. It makes sense, and we'll get into why in a little bit. I don't necessarily want to give my final rating on the game just yet, so we'll get into kind of some of the specifics, the story, the gameplay, and whatnot. But it's not surprising that Ken Lobb is associated with this game. But obviously, this is based off the G.I. Joe action figure line and also the cartoon, which is, I believe, still going on at this point. This was 1991. The G.I. Joe cartoon series, I think, started in 84, 85, maybe. Lasted for a bunch of years. It was a great cartoon. Everyone knows it, loves it, who grew up in the 80s. It was a good show. So the story goes that you were playing as the Joe team. You're playing as G.I. Joe, and it consists in this particular iteration of Duke, Snake Eyes, Captain Gridiron, Rock and Roll, and Blizzard. And for the final mission, General Hawk. That's a pretty good cross-section of G.I. Joes. No female representation. There's no Scarlet in here, but that's it's fine. You get a nice cross-section. You get some of the hits like Duke and Snake Eyes. So there's no deep cuts in this game, and basically you travel around the world trying to take down Cobra. Right? Makes sense. Pretty standard story. Now, there is cutscenes in here, which is cool. This is 91, so we have had games like Ninja Gaiden before, which was kind of one of the first games to have cutscenes in there, so not surprising, but pleasant to see. And, the cutscenes happen. There's like a little pre-mission setup where General Hawk kind of gives you the mission details, and tells you who's going to be like the leader of that mission. Every mission has their own leader, and then you get to pick two other compatriots to go along with you. So you build like a little party, you build like a little team. So like the first mission, you have to play as Duke, and then you can bring two other guys with you, and you can switch those guys on the fly, which is super cool. And you do see everybody's health and like attributes at the bottom of the screen, which is cool, and you can kind of flip to them on the fly just by hitting like the select button. But yeah, so there's 6 missions in total, ranging from the Amazon, the Antarctica, the NYC sewers, the Black Hills, and the Sahara, which I didn't know the Black Hills in South Dakota. I had to look that up. So there's some strong North American representation here, which is cool to see. Every mission breaks down into 3 different parts, right? There's the run up to the Cobra base, wherever that's located. So you have to like break into the Cobra base. Then you have to, in the second part, you have to set some bombs up, right? So you're kind of running around inside their base, going to like key points to like plant these charges, right? Because you want to blow the base up. And then the third part of the mission is the boss battle, right? So you're fighting guys like Range Viper or Metalhead, Overlord, Voltar, Destro, and finally the Cobra Commander in the final mission. So that's kind of cool. One thing I will say about it is, well, a couple things I'll say about it is the controls, pretty tight, right? Controls are pretty good. The part 2 kind of sucks because there's no map and they are kind of maze-like, which I get because you're trying to like explore and go around. That's probably the weakest part of each mission, right? Because there's a lot of times that I've been running around trying to find where the last spot is to plant the charge and get out of the level, and I can't find it, which would normally be just annoying, but they also have a timer, right? Because I guess, I don't know, you're setting the depth charges and whatnot. They're going to go off after a certain time, so you got to get in and get out. And, after you set all the things, then you got to find the exit. So it's kind of annoying. There's a lot of those parts of the levels I would play over and over again. So kind of annoying. So I just wanted to mention that about it. But there are some RPG elements. I did mention that before. So you can upgrade your Joes. And they're permanent power-ups as long as you beat that part of the stage. I believe those power-ups will stay. So depending on who you're playing as, right, if you're playing as Duke and you pick up like a firepower upgrade, you'll upgrade his gun or fist power-up depending on which thing you have equipped, right? So every Joe has a gun. Every Joe has like a melee attack, which is usually a fist. When you upgrade the melee, you eventually get like jump kicks and, you get more powerful attacks, which is cool, right? You can kind of like pick and choose who you want to upgrade, who your favorite guy is. You can kind of upgrade that. You can upgrade their stamina too, so they have more health. And then there's also like bullet power-ups and like health regeneration, so you can like refill your weapon because you can run out of bullets. Right, and if you run out of bullets for all your characters, you're kind of screwed. You just have to use melee attack, but you can still get through the levels. It just makes it very, very tough.
It stops you from just just shooting nonstop, right? You got to really
sure. Yeah,
I'm not saying you got to be super strategic with it, but it's not like Contra where you just hold down the shoot button.
Right, exactly.
Right,
exactly. Yeah, and it does have that mode. You can just hold down the fire button and just let your stuff fly, and you can kind of run and gun with it. But yeah, you're going to be out of ammo really quickly, so you do want to conserve. You can kind of grind out for power ups. You can grind out for ammo if you want, which is kind of cool. I don't know what the max ammo is. It may be 999. Could be 256. I'm not too sure. I never really got there because I would liberally be using the ammo because, using your gun is the way to go. You definitely want to do that. Also, surprisingly, which I didn't know, I kind of went in cold to this. They do have vehicles. You can get the buzzbore, which kind of sticks to the walls. It's like it's got like spikes around the edge, so you can kind of go up the walls and go around, and you can actually set the depth charges while in the vehicle, which is super cool. So when you're doing the levels inside the bases, you can kind of like run around the walls and you don't have to get out of the vehicle. But it does have limited power.
That's awesome, but it sounds more like that would be an enemy instead of something that you can drive. So that's
right.
That's great for the time.
Yeah. There's also the pogo and the battlecopter, which I think the battlecopter is only in the final mission, which General Hawk flies around in. But it was like super cool to see. Like the game was definitely a bit deeper than I thought it was. And the vehicles are fun to use. The vehicles have their own music that also go along with it. So like they like really put some effort into it. It wasn't just kind of like a throwaway. It's like, oh yeah, we gotta somehow shoehorn the vehicles in. Like they made it work. As far as the graphics and sound go, every stage is different, which makes sense. The Amazon should be different than the sewers, which should be different from the Antarctic. And they are. They have beautiful color palettes. Sprites are good. The background tiles, they really went the extra mile. It looks great. It looks great for a 1991 game. It looks great today, going back and, having a retro mindset with it. Very, very pleasing. Sound is great too. It's a good sound. I don't know if it's Pursuit Force good. I don't know if it's Richard Jacques level. But I enjoyed all the music. It was definitely fitting. But I don't know if I'd put it on while I'm working and listen to the G.I. Joe soundtrack like I would something like Castlevania or like Metal Gear it is good, but it doesn't really hold up necessarily outside of the outside of the game, but it fits, if that makes any sense.
No, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Best part about the game, building your team and the RPG elements. I wish they fleshed out the characters a little bit better. You can obviously, you get these nice big sprites when you're doing the team selection, which is cool. You can tell who's who. You do see a visual difference with all the characters. You can kind of tell who they are and whatnot, but the way they end up playing, and I think Snake Eyes has a higher jump power. Rock and Roll's got the best gun strength, but it was not really a big difference. I couldn't necessarily tell that Duke was any different than Rock and Roll, even though they had slightly different stats and slightly different max stats. So it would be nice to see a little bit of a difference there, but visually they certainly have a distinct look to them and whatnot. So and the part 2, the maze-like stages, could have been good to have a little mini map in there. Maybe you hit the start button and it goes to a map screen or whatnot. I know it's 1991, so it's not necessarily that every game is going to come with a mini map or should have come with a mini map, but it could have. There were definitely games that have had mini maps, Goonies 2 or the first Turtles game. They had map screens. But
is a map that vital to figuring out where to go?
For sure.
I mean, is that a Metroidvania by any means, right?
No, but the fact that I died so many times on these levels trying to
figure out where to go. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that's also too, if they made the Cobra bases a little bit have some more visual distinct features in certain areas. It was hard to tell, is the bomb up in this upper left area, or this upper left area, or this bottom left area? Maze-like to the point of where they're are you padding the game out? Felt like they were kind of padding the game out a little bit. So, not the worst thing in the world, but it's just something to know going in. Would be nice to have a mini map, I guess. I guess that kind of leads into, does this game hold up today? And with all those kind of caveats, it certainly does. I had a great time with it. The whole entire package is cool. They really nail the G.I. Joe feel. Even the sequel, I played a little bit of the Atlantis Factor. I don't want to get into that, but that was a game that was published and I believe built by Capcom. They ended up picking up the reins. Also good and very, very similar to the first one. They kind of built it up. There's a different character selection, but you do get all the power-ups and the whatever else. So there was a lot of core things that Capcom saw in this game, and they said, hey, we're going to port that forward. So I would definitely play the original if you can find it. As far as the reviews go, obviously this game only came out on the NES. Metacritic wasn't around, so we can skip all of that stuff, but I did find some reviews, and there is a Brazilian outlet called, I'm going to butcher this name, so a cow or a sow game?
Oh yeah, a cow. Yeah, I know a cow.
You know a cow? A-C-A-O.
Yeah, I know a cow. I'll tell you that.
You know a cow, and the C has a little cedilla on it, and the A has got that little accent grave going down. Sorry, I'm getting into my French a little bit. But they gave it 100 out of 100. They love this game. And then the worst review I could find was from Video Games and Computer Entertainment. And before you say, oh yeah, those guys, I do recognize them. They were around in the 80s and 90s, I believe, for a little bit. They gave it a 7 out of 10. Which I think is a little bit more in line with my rating. It's definitely not a 10 out of 10. It does have some issues. I would say playing it today, given all the negatives I have to say about it and the positives together, I would say 7.5, which I think is fair. You could maybe bump it up to an 8 or an 8.5, I don't think that would be out of the realm. It's definitely not perfect. There are some things I think even given for the time could have been added to the game, and it would be pretty reasonable to kind of say like, oh yeah, I could expect a feature like this to be in the game. Like you know, a mini map would go a long way. A little bit more differentiation between the characters gameplay wise could go a long way. That would bump it up to like a 8.59 for me, to be honest. So there is that. Now, if you want to get this game, oh boy, you can only get the manual on Lukey, but the manual is the manual. Manual is great, don't get me wrong, and we love Lukey. Try and look up Lukey prices if we can, but you can't get it on Lukey. But you can get it on eBay. The original, the cheapest that I found, a buy it now price of $62.34 plus shipping. Now, it's very interesting because the first game is cheaper than the Atlantis Factor, the sequel, which gameplay-wise, I did end up playing both. Gameplay-wise, they are very similar. I don't necessarily know if one is better than the other. I couldn't necessarily say that with any sort of certainty. They are very good games. I don't know if Part 2 sold a lot more. I don't know if because it was Capcom, they produced a lot more copies. There's a lot more copies out there, but the sequel was about half the price. So, very interesting. I didn't know this game went for that much. And this is the reason why I am emulating this game, because this is very expensive. I tried to get it, and I don't necessarily have $65 lying around, plus shipping for this game, so I had to emulate it, but I got my emulator set up perfectly. I had no issues with it, so it's not a one-to-one experience playing it on an NES, but it's pretty close. So, yeah, there we go.
I do own the game. I haven't played it yet.
Oh.
Those are the two games I definitely want to get into.
Mm-hmm. Give it a go. I think you'll have a real good time with it. Yeah. Yeah. It's solid. It's solid. That is a firm 7.5, right? It's not like, it's kind of a 7 or whatever. That's like a firm 7.5. It's good. It's a good game. It's a good game. And on that note, that is episode 35 in the books, folks. And we want to thank you guys for listening to the show, for liking, commenting, doing all the good stuff that you guys do. If you want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads at Rated G for Gamers. So please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
keep gaming.